Hello, hello, hello. What's going on here? Right, we've got. Okay. Just some technical glitches here. Here I am again, Frantz Kantor, drawing for your edutainment. You like that word? I don't. It's either one thing or the other. Either you're educating me or you're entertaining me, but don't try to teach me. So what are we doing today? We're doing, we're going to let it be today. So let's get fired up. We're going to draw this fellow here, John Lennon, the Beatle. So John Winston Lennon was born in 1940 and died in 1980, age 40, in New York City. And of course he was gunned down. And he is one of the Fab Four, obviously one of the Beatles. I was going to show you my Beatles figurine collection, but I might do that another time. So what I'm doing today is I'm doing a caricature of John, but I want to do, this is John and Yoko, the working class hero. This is in the Fab Four in the 60s, probably 1964 probably, I'm thinking, because they don't have those sort of, white shirts. John Lennon loved hats, and he's kind of like an inspiration for me. This is how I had my hair. I usually have my hair when it's fairly long, like John Lennon. And he was very influential in a lot of people's lives, and we didn't realize that until we lost him. And that was very true with me. So he's got some very striking features. So he's got a very small mouth, a very strong hooked nose, very, very bony, very sinewy, a lot of sinews. A lot of grizzle, or usually you have like quite a proportioned amount of fat and grizzle or cartilage in the nose. Occasionally you get some very refined features, some very sharp pointy features, and that's true of John's nose. So this is the photograph. This is the early Beatles. You can see with the collars and the sideburns and things like that. Quite like this. He had these beautiful cat collection which he would wear, and it's very inspirational. I'm not so happy with this one. I'm not really keen on berets so much, but you can see that he had this particular style about him. So he was all very, very visual, a visual person. Of course, he was an artist, and he used to draw and paint as well. And he was very outspoken. So the hat performs kind of like a articulate performance feature. It's kind of like Lennon, the communist socialist spokesperson, in that it's something that sort of gives you more of a military rebel sort of Che Guevara sort of appeal. The hairstyle, we can't really relate to this. I grew up with this hairstyle, but in the early 60s this was quite rare. People that had long hair like this in the 60s, in the early 60s, were regarded as bohemians. So there's all of that sort of performance look and feel with his features, with his face. And he used that quite a lot. So it was very, very. See, it's like it's a statement, and I really enjoy that. And even, this one, which I've seen a few images of, I haven't quite identified this hat, but it looks like it's been purposely made for him, so that it sort of fulfills a sort of a Da Vinci loose beret and with a peak, so, and some little badge holders or something. Not quite sure, but it looks very interesting. So this is him in his later years. He only died at age of 40. And this, you could see the, very strong features: small mouth, bony, long bony nose. His shape of his face is quite long as well. So these are like icons, aren't they? And don't like that hat at all. Another feature too are the eyebrows, which are quite bushy. So he's got that sort of lidded, half-lidded eyes, small mouth, bony nose, and eyebrows, and of course, the hair and the hat. All right, so that's the sort of features that we're looking for. And as I said, I'm working from this. So where are we going with this? Well, I shall show you. The reason why I like the 3/4 or the side view is because you can create quite a lot of variation in shapes. It's quite an interesting proposal to do that. All right, and you can work with perspective, which is good fun. Perspective gives you a good feeling of three-dimensional space and form. And we're doing a drawing on toned paper, so that's a really good thing to do, because you don't have to build up half-tone like I am doing with this white paper. The paper helps, meets you halfway. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to balance it, lock it in place with a framing device, which gives us a little bit of compositional positioning and help, and gives us this area here, which is negative space. Now the lighting on this on the photograph, on the subject, of course, is coming in from the left. It's a sort of an outdoor light, so there's a bit of reflection coming in from the other directions as well. The other thing to keep an eye on is where we're going to concentrate our efforts, with a face, with portraits, or indeed with caricatures. It's a good thing to keep in mind the principle of focus. We're focusing on the area of the mouth and the eyes and the nose, and this is sort of a T-shaped zone in the face. Okay, so you can form this sort of T shape, and that's just an area where we're going to focus our attention, because the idea of drawing an impression, or like a caricature, means that you've got to refer to actual recognizable landmarks in the drawing. Alright, so everything else I'll talk about as we go. I've taken the opportunity to draw up this onto some tone paper. I've made a few changes, some not so good actually, but we'll sort of see what happens. I just noticed that there's a little bit of a shift and a movement away from, it's going that way instead of that way, and I wanted it to sort of go that way a little bit, so I think might have a little bit of a problem. We'll see. You might wonder why I'm using a black eraser. Well, black doesn't sort of hold a lot of pigment. It doesn't really transfer a lot of smudges back onto the paper like white erasers do. Alrighty. Sharpen the instruments of destruction. These are Prismacolors, which are quite soft, and they're very good for light drawing, I'm going to establish the tone with that. We're going to hit the black polychromos, which are a harder color pencil for black details. And white details, we're going to use a Prismacolor, a white Prismacolor. Now they're quite soft. Now this is why I'm using an electric eraser, because if I was to use a little handheld eraser, a sharpener, it would break the lead. All right, so let's go in and have some fun. So he died quite young, so we're not going to find a lot of wrinkles and things to contend with to teach us much about his personality. But he is a poet. He is like a great musician and a lyricist, of course. And there's a lot of tiny light details here, even though it's outdoors. We have to try to refer to. Let's get into some highlights early, perhaps. It's an incredible amount of bone, not bone, cartilage. It gives this nose a really strong definition. So let's see what we can do. Try to catch the difference. Now, my idea of caricature is different to a lot of people's. It's basically a process of simplification and exaggeration. So you actually pick your battles, and that's quite a good shape. I think we can make that work. You pick your battles. So in other words, I'm defining the shape. Now I could have picked another photograph. I could change the shape altogether. I could use more cartoon and less relevance, less reliance on the photo. But I think we'll do quite well with what we have. I'm winging it. This is what I'm telling you. I'm winging it. Now the idea of why would you wing something? Why would you take on something and not know how it will end? Well, the reason is drawing itself serves two purposes. One is the end result of the drawing. The other is the exploration part of the drawing process. And that's the thing that's more exciting than anything else. Because drawing is of incredibly intense activity. Very, very, there's a lot of stuff going on in my head. I don't come to the table with things in my head. I come looking for opportunities that I can find in the drawing process itself. So creativity is something that I always welcome. Looking at like a blank page, it's sort of an invitation to really play. That's all it is. It's just playing around, mucking around. That's all artwork is, really, at the end of the day. It's all we can hope to do, is to have fun and enjoy the process, enjoy the moment. And it's a bunch of moments that we are happily participating in. I just found a few nice little wrinkles, actually, in his eyes. I don't know why they're there at such a young age, but I have to try to be careful not to emphasize certain elements. It's quite safe, I think, with the brown pencil, because we haven't sort of committed with the black pencil yet. So the black pencil usually get in and attack the pupils, which are usually the blackest part of faces. And then, he's got blue eyes, but in this light it's quite shaded. Okay. That'll do. So, John Winston Lennon. Imagine if he just picked his middle name, if he thought that was fun. It's Winnie. Winnie Winston Churchill, named after Churchill, I guess, born in 1940. That would be around the time of Churchill's popularity. So yeah, would have done that. Interesting, isn't it? We're all, I guess, at the end of the day, products of time, space. So I'm focusing on certain aspects, zipping back and forth, looking at the photograph to try to determine the individual shapes and lines that I'm detecting there. Try to get some sort of a relevant shape and not proportion so much, but shape. Proportions, you change proportions with a caricature, you exaggerate things, but you look for indicators. It's like this bone in the nose here, right? I'm just getting a sort of an impression from the reference that this is I'm allowed to bend it into this shape because of what I can see or think I see in the reference. And I'm going to, because it's a nose, I don't want to draw undue attention. I'm pulling the nose so much that I have to change some of the geometry. So simplify it a little bit. So I'm looking down on it rather than, the nostrils are clearly visible in the photograph, but I'm hiding them here. The other thing too is there's a sinew or muscle that's coming up from the nose itself. I wonder if it's in this. You can't really make it out. Oh, it's a shame. I'll have to get a better model. So this is great for, I guess, a lot of things. Snarling would be a good one. Smiling, it'll pull and push. A lot of the muscles are going into the nose itself, into the nose structure. So there's an awful lot of really, really cool stretching and pulling that's possible over such a normally fixed element. All right, as I said, there's some bushy eyebrows here, but they're kind of there but not there because of the hair, the fringes hanging over it quite strongly. So we have to be careful how we do this. I don't know about the eyelashes. Let's knock them back, see what happens. Okay. All right, let's do this. See what we can do with this one here. Now the hair is going to come down this way. Fringe. That will work. Okay, so I'm just working out how much I can actually draw, how much I can show of the eyebrow. Because I want them to be there, but at the same time I don't want the I don't want it to be too prominent because the fringe is part of the feature here. It's it's a haircut that's named after them. Or a non-haircut. That's probably more like it. It's a non-haircut. That's what your hair turns into when you don't cut it. I'm a bit like that at the moment. We have a lockdown in Melbourne. It's been going on for a long time. That's good. That's not too bad. I can see bits of him at 40. Which is interesting. So his face, the face hasn't changed very much in that time, but there's not enough years, but it's an very interesting face. Very honest. Probably too honest, to be honest. I like that. That seems to be nice. Seems to work all right. I like that line there too. So I find things that I like in faces. And it's a discovery process, really, isn't it? Drawing, the whole process of drawing is to discover things, learn things as you go. I'm not learning meanings of his lyrics or anything like that, but just finding a story within an expression or face. I think it's kind of fun. So some nice little spidery lines coming out here, which sort of speak a few sentences on how his face would end up at 40. Interesting. So what I'm looking at here is lighting form, but also picking up texture. So there's a lot of texture in the face. Some elements are shinier than others, so they have more reflection of light sources, etc. So it's not just a matter of the curvature of forms themselves. Sometimes the forms can have reflections or even luminosity. Skin itself has luminous features. If you don't believe me, have a look at somebody with big ears standing in front of a light source, and the light sort of shines through their pink ears. There's a famous Australian Impressionist painting in the Art Gallery in New South Wales. It's famous just for that. People travel thousands of miles to admire this guy's pink ears in this paddock early morning, and I always loved that humorous aspect, because it's sort of I'm exaggerating that as well. That's good. All right, so where are we going now? Let's get some features happening with the hat. So part simplification, the process that I use for caricature. It's a little bit of cartoon, a little bit of the details come from observation, obviously. So you need to observe where you're going. How am I doing with this? Okay. quite a large visor on this this hat. It's a leather hat. It's like it's not a Breton style, it's more like a Majeski, like a Polish hat. Very interesting. So a lot of these, this, it's like European 100-year prior type of hat, fiddle on the roof style, that sort of Polish, Russian, Slavic, that sort of area. So it's a European fashion, but it kind of speaks a little bit about the thought process, who would wear hats like that as a feature, because it's like a cap on a soda bottle containing a lot of effervescence. That's what it is. There's a lot of effervescence in John. And even in like great thinkers like Lennon, whether or not you can't really argue that he's not a great thinker, Lennon. Not John Lennon, Lennon, even though he's a communist. So what's happening here? So I'm exaggerating this hair. I'm going to be careful with this. It's I need those individual lines, direction, exaggerating this scale of it. Okay, put in the shadows. So the strokes that you're seeing here are they're based on a cross hatching or hatch effect, and you use that with the white as well. Use it for most stuff. The brown even, you can use it for that. So it's more of a contrite, not contrite. I'm anything but contrite. A controlled decorative effect. So it's part natural drawing process and part sort of illustrative device. So it's it's more technique. That's what I was going to tell you. It's more sort of based on the technique. Okay. Right. Here we go. Getting into dangerous area here because we're relying too much on the black rather than building up the tone first with the brown pencil, which gives it a nice sort of warmth. So that'll work. So there's a lot of flattening or pushing down from the hat, obviously, and there's a sort of a peak, the side of the peak as it joins the that going back into the hat itself. The hat structure tends to sort of push all of these interesting tufts of hair. So each one has it. They all have. It's all there for a reason, and each one has a direction. Each of these hair forms. So this is the temple hair, and then you've got the see if I can get this relevant. Be careful with angles too. You know, I have a tendency to sharpen things quite a lot, and that could be a mistake in this sense. Some spots. Okay. That's good. Ears, of course, you know, these are shapes. Look at the shapes there. Okay, they'll conform to a basic structure. Ears have a certain similarity to each other, you know, different people. Certainly when, you know, ears are young, when ears are young, and they have a certain, they conform to a certain shape, you know, but as you get older, of course, the ears take on its more individual characteristics. So this is still quite sharp and well defined, and has soft elements. Yeah, that'll do. Right. That's a nice ear. Yeah, a lot of times cartoonists or caricaturists would make the ears bigger because they're a nice sort of physical element that you can use to balance things. Right. Okay. So we've got a bit of structure with the hat. We'll try and put as much of that in as we can, I think. Okay. Get some more definition in here. It's a very, very cool hat. So you had this hat collection, and it's very kind of defining of his periods. Is like the blue period of John Lennon, you know, even more than the glasses. I mean, people say, oh well, Lennon glasses, it's a thing, you know. If you were to search on eBay or something for Lennon glasses, you get those round specs. So they're definitely a thing, and his fashion was more than just the Beatles style of, you know, like the hairstyle, the long hair. It was more than that. It's like some form of statement that was almost bordering, almost, not quite, but almost bordering on a political statement. And that was it was also a sign of the times, I think. You know, so there was a lot of questioning of social norms and what we believe as true, kind of like today, but less conspiratorial. I think the stuff today is really berserk and quite outlandish, like the flat earth. Oh, things dropping like flies. So yeah, I just want to get some quick tone in the hat, give us a little bit of contrast. Be nice. Yeah, that should do the trick, I think. It's more of a portrait of a hat now. Okay. I was looking forward to this, today. I was really looking forward to it, and I wasn't quite sure, what should I do? What period, But I just thought I'd respond as I usually always do. I'll respond to the reference of what I can see in a photograph, that's relevant, that has some kind of story ability to tell a story. That's really what I'm interested in. So it's not so much like an iconic period of time, but more of finding something, to have the ability to not know how it will end, but have a worthwhile journey, a worthwhile experience in the process. That's what I'm more interested in than the success of a likeness. Although, we're doing all right so far. We're doing okay. That does look, comparatively, it does look more John Lennon-ish. So we're doing all right. But again, the whole process, the drawing process itself lends itself to exploration and discovery, sometimes even self-discovery. Ooh, I didn't know I could draw that. That could happen too. So, I'd like to tell you that it doesn't matter about the subject, you just take it on and you'll learn from it. And in many ways that is true. That is true. Irrespective of the subject, you will learn because of the process itself. It is a vital part of learning, and I guess it inspires a sort of a fearlessness of drawing. So if you get anything out of these videos at all, it's a fact that it's fun, and it's part of the drawingness, or the drawing attitude, or the drawing process itself, that is in itself the reason. So there's no deadline, there's no paycheck, there's nothing there other than this process itself. And if I stop right now, that's fine, So there's no pressure to complete or to have something done in a certain time. You just do it as you feel it and learn through the process of doing. So, pencil is a really cool implement to play with, and we're really good at that as kids. We draw all the time, and one of the first things our parents get us, I guess, is some color pencils. But rather than looking at them as color, they're also drawing pencils. So this is the other thing too. I just wanted to explain this a little bit more. Usually I don't have one, can't see one here. But like a normal graphite pencil is what most people draw with, right? And that's fine, that's good. But color pencils open up a whole different world of possibilities, even on white paper, you know? And it's less smudgy, like it's less smudgy than graphite. And it's quite fun because you've got to sort of decide very early on contrasts, light and shade, in order to get some form of effect on it, you know. So animators and cartoonists and illustrators, you know, they use these obviously colored pencils, and they serve a purpose because, you know, they used to be like for reprographic reasons. The blue pencil, you know, I used to do in the newspapers, used to do blue pencil and then go with a black pencil over the top and then shushed it off to the printer, and of course the blue would be invisible, so all of the underdrawing is invisible. I might show you some of the caricatures next time. I'll show you some of the newspaper caricatures, and you can go into the details of that. Pick your battles. So this is, I'm enjoying this. Actually, let's just try to limit the amount of brown pencil over there, because I'm going to get to it with some white. Okay. There's a light source coming in from the left, and I want to sort of refer to that. I can. Yeah, good. I think that might work. Very strong. This thing, the whatever that's called. Let's actually, before we do anything else, build up some more tone here. It's got very soft, round shapes here. We'll talk about the this. Now, in the photograph, it's not so visible. You can see it's not so visible. I'm referring to, of course, the cheekbone. And the cheekbone is quite prominent. It's very close to the skin, along with the forehead. So just by referencing a little bit harder than it would be in the photograph, I'm actually creating a nice level of believable realism in it. Because it should be there, even though it's not. It should be there. It feels that it should be there, because it's, you know, in most cases the cheekbones are quite visible. So that's a good thing to do. What else is there? There's, like, you know, bits of shiny textures inside the ear itself, which shouldn't be light, but there is, because it's shiny inside the ear. There's a lot of oil, and you know, there's some peach fuzz, etc., on the skin of the ear, but so it's a little bit softer. But at certain parts, it can be more pick up more highlight. So these are things that, it's not like a shopping list of textures and anatomy, but textures are really important to give you a heads up on the believability of the drawing, because these are sort of touchy-feely aspects, okay? So I know it sounds weird, doesn't it? But bear with me. What I'm alluding to here is the tactile effect of the drawing. Now, you can't get a tactile effect in a photo. Photos are not tactile. They are not tactile. They don't even allude to the physical touching ability of the image. So, you know, even a photograph of something that's quote unquote textural, you know, is only textural in its reference to, you know, the subject. So if you have a photograph of something that's rough, like a fence, you know, and you contrast it, so it's very, very contrasty, you see the grain, etc. It has a certain tactile, it's called a tactile ability, but there's nothing like drawing the fence. So if you were to draw the fence, you're highlighting things, you're exaggerating that quality. And by exaggerating that roughness, you know, just by the technique itself with a pencil and paper, it has a graininess to it, right? So texture is something that can be applied and used as part of a context, not just the picture. It's not, you're not photographs. Drawings are not photographs. It's something different. They're more than the actual subject itself. It has another context, another story, if you will. So this is, you know, obviously leather. And to a certain extent, if you look hard enough, you could see its shininess in the photograph. But I can exaggerate that. So now that it looks more leather than the photo. Like what I did with the cheekbone. Made it look more like a cheekbone than the photo. Okay. We'll continue on. So certain shapes within, you know, caricatures are overall distortions of shapes and attention to details, but in a new context, of course, because of moving things around. The same is true for sort of micro elements of drawings. So, the shape of lips, for example. That's quite a nice, I'm exaggerating those shapes. So wherever I get a chance, why is that dot there? Just get out. Out damn spot. Okay. Okay, okie dokie. Right. Alright, so there is a light. Soften some of the brown a little bit here. We'll get there, don't worry. That's good. Don't forget the shine up there. So the details that I'm catching, right, these are textures. Now textures are things that you feel with your fingers. So it's almost like the drawing process itself gives you a chance to slowly, sensuously stroke the features, the forms that you're drawing, that you're trying to explain with a pencil. Okay, so it's a very visceral experience, and sometimes you see kids, when they're drawing, they stick their tongue out because it's a very, very empathic concept. It's a very sort of empathic, not you know, the empathic as in, well, look at the person I'm drawing, But the process itself, the physical process of drawing, is very, very interesting. And kids poke their tongues out while they're drawing because it's like eating. It's like stroking a fruit or a chocolate or a cake or something like that. It's sort of a very sort of physical process. And that also makes it, the more you have that in mind, it actually makes it more, gives you more ability to keep going. Because, if the experience is like eating a chocolate cake, which is, probably one of the best experiences, let's face it, in the world. If it's like that, then, you want to keep doing it. You want to do it more, There we go. Rounded that. See, I've rounded that off a bit. Now he's got just a little bit of the teeth showing here. We'll fix that up with the black pencil in a sec, but before I put the black in, I thought I'd establish some of the hierarchy of the light, especially this part where the form is wrapping around the face. That's good, that'll do. Now comes the tricky part, because it is a drawing and I am accentuating the outline where there is no real outline, but I'm putting one in there for the heck of it. So I don't want to put the outlines over everything, but I think to help with the contrast, make elements stand out from the background, is a good thing. Yep. Happy with that. So you go a bit heavier, thicker around here because it's the form's wrapping underneath now. So usually with thick and thin lines, with a brush or a pen or something, it articulates curvature. Right, now we get to this part here, the neck. Let's see if I can catch some of the individual tufts of hair, the attitude. Again, it's being pushed by the hat. There's also some, it's got an Adam's apple. Of course, the shadows. Yeah, not convinced. There's not enough. Yeah, okay, I'll live with that. Okay. Zoom out a little bit. This is a suede jacket here. Nice shapes. Very cool. That'll do. That's good. Let's get in here. So this is a pencil study almost. You know, if you were doing this in Procreate or Photoshop, of course, you'd put more finish over the thing if you wish. You don't have to, of course. It's really up to you, but I like the unfinished quality of pencil. A big fan of like movie posters, like Drew Struzan's lovely pencil work. That's actually where these the use of Prismacolors come from. It's one of his tutorial videos where he explains the drawing process. It's a airbrush and acrylic and oil and gouache, whatever he uses, but he does use color pencils, and you know, that's I think at the time there were quite a few Ansel Adams, oh gosh, I can't remember his first name. Ansel, he did the first Raiders of the Lost Ark poster. He used pencil, and you can see the pencil, you know, the texture of the pencil strokes themselves in the artwork, and I loved that because it was very approachable and it looked like I can understand how it's made, you know, which for an artist is really important. So, you know, when you study oil paint, for example, oil painting technique, and you look at Rembrandt or Da Vinci, and you start to see the process underneath, it's kind of funny, but it teaches you an awful lot. All right, so here we go. Going to get some sharper details. This is a Posca paint pen. They come in different sizes. This is, I think, a 2mm, 7.7. These are good because they don't really mix so well with the. Should have done that with the pencil. fix up this some framing elements here. So far so good. Now I'll always go off kilter with this line because I'm drawing at an extreme angle, so I don't know if it's going to be straight or not. That'll do. What else? Oh, okay. So I'm going to help out the black a little bit with this brush pen. This is a Zig Brush Pen, and the ink is sort of a calligraphic ink. It's not as it's as black as something like Indian ink, but it has more ability to flow and less puddling, because Indian ink tends to puddle. And when I was working for the newspapers, I used to use this in the background a lot, Indian ink with a brush, and infuriatingly it would puddle, and not only puddle and create a unwarranted shine, but it would infuriatingly create a metallic sheen, which was even more annoying. So this brush pen is quite, you know, as you'd imagine, a brush can get thick and thin depending on the angle that you hold the implement. And it's got nice, quite opaque and flat qualities to it as well. So this is good. So it's nice for outlines like that. I might actually use a Posca, black Posca, to cut in further in here, because it's a little bit faster, and I've just knocked a Posca off the table. My sleeve. Okay. That'll do. So I used to use this technique. Well, that's a bit inelegant, that one there. I've closed it up. But I used to use this in when I was working for the Murdoch newspapers, and before that the Sydney Morning Herald. I really enjoyed the you know, apart from the subject matter, I wasn't never interested in drawing politicians and things, but a challenge in terms of technique and composition, you know, is every time I did one would be a different problem to solve, which is interesting. So I'm trying very hard to keep a steady hand. There's no undo function. There's no, Control Z. This is uncharted territory. So any mistake is a mistake, That's it. And it's not like, in Bob Ross where you make a mistake, you can get the palette knife and scrape it back to the canvas underneath and then put the mountain back. It's not that case. These are things where the mistakes are mistakes. And sometimes they're not, they're not fixable. There are a lot of stories in the early days of cartoonists using brushes and pens. Of course, it blotches. It does. Things happen. Ink falls. Gravity takes over. And rather than start again, they would use it and turn the ink blot into a cat or something. There's a few examples of that happening, I'm sure. I know of one. I can't remember the artist, but it happened, and and just sort of it became it was such a novel device that continued to use it. Became a thing. Okay, so this is a Posca marker. Of course, it dries flat as well and has the added ability to also not go through the paper, which is fantastic. Doesn't go through the paper. This paper I'm using is a Strathmore Grey. These are multimedia sort of pads. They could take a little bit of water as well if you can put watercolor over it. That's fine. I used to do gouache on this paper with a lot of water, and it handles it quite well. It's not perfect, it's not like watercolor paper, but will serve at a pinch. Should do some watercolor. Some new black watercolor paper, which I'm going to try it out. So that will dry quite flat. Because this is grey paper, if you make a mistake like I did over there, you can't really fix it. I don't have paint this colour. I'd have to go and create it. So any errors, they're going to be there. That's it. It's all there is to it. Let's get my lid. Excuse me, Alright. So that will dry quite flat, nice and flat. I quite like this. It's got a nice sense of balance to it. It's happening quite well. Interesting. What else? Other things, these come in brush pens as well, Poscas. But I think for the moment I'll just use this. Just get some nice sharp highlights here and there. I want them. Just to establish a bit more contrast, So it's a sort of a nice leathery effect. I can't really think of any more to put on there, so let's get in here. Put the name down. Well, that was an interesting I thought that was quite a fun assignment, actually. This is the reference photograph. John Winston Lennon. And this is my John Winston Lennon. And this is Frantz Kantor saying to you, I will catch you on the flip side. Bye-bye.